To God be the glory.
Welcome back to our study of Biblical Hebrew. Last time we were talking a little bit about vowels, and hopefully you've been able to work on your vowels a little bit, and also talking about the Shavah and the importance and the usage of the Shavah. And also we were talking a little bit about open and closed syllables. Now an open syllable is one that ends in a vowel, and a closed syllable is one that ends in a consonant. And so you think about the two distinguishing features between an open syllable and a closed one. It all depends on the vowel. Usually an open syllable has a long vowel. And one exception to that is if it is accented, it may have a short vowel. Conversely, a closed syllable usually has a short vowel. But if it's accented, it may have a long vowel, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Generally, there is one rule that's most important in understanding this, and that is a syllable which is closed and unaccented must have a short vowel. And we'll talk about that and give some examples of what we're talking about that after a while. But it is important that when we proceed through this, you understand what is an open and closed syllable. And this is a lesson in which we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if something ends in a vowel, then you know that it's an open syllable. All right, let's go back to the board and go back to some of the things that we were talking about in our previous lesson. And we were talking about the Shavah. Now you know that normally the Shavah, for example, if I take the Hebrew letter Pei, it just looks like this. Two dots underneath the letter, and if it's pronounced, it has an E sound, and if it's a silent Shavah, then obviously it doesn't have any sound at all, and that's why we're talking about an open versus a closed syllable. All right, but we do have 4 letters that are called gutturals. It is the Aleph, the Ayin, the Hey, and the Heth. These are the weakest letters out of all the letters in the Hebrew language. And we've already observed that these two, the Aleph and the Ayin, are virtually unpronounced. And then the Hey and the Heth have some unique features about them too. But these 4 letters cannot take a Shavah by themselves underneath it. Since this is already such a weak letter, you will never see that, for example. Or with the Ayin, you will never see that. You will never see this or this. None of these 4 letters can ever take just a regular Shavah. What they do take is what the book calls a compound Shavah, or some other grammar books will call it a composite Shavah, meaning that it's going to be a combination of 2 different things. For example, you may have the comets and a Shavah, or it's possible that you will have the Patak and a Shavah. And one other alternative is the Segol and a Shavah. Now this is called a composite Shavah. So you've really got 2 different things that's all put together underneath the letter. Now understand that any 4 of these could have any one of these combinations. For example, the Aleph could have the comets and the Shavah, or it could have the Patak and the Shavah, or it could have the Segol and the Shavah. Any one of those could come underneath this letter, or this one, or that one. It's all the same, but these are the 3 possible things, and it comes under composite Shavah. Okay, what's the significance of that? What happens is that because these letters are so weak, it assumes the sound that we would have. So this would be ah, with the comets and the patak, and the segol would have its E sound. And that's what's happened with the composite Shava. All right, now let's look at the examples that are given in the book, right there on page 34, under section number 14. And that, it tells us when the guttural letters ayin, heth, and hey occur at the end of the word, because of their peculiar pronunciation, the patak, known as a furtive patak, is placed under the guttural to facilitate its pronunciation. For example, we have this. We have a yod, then we have the holum, then we have a daleth, and then we have the ayin, and then the vowels are placed like this. We have sere, then he has patak right underneath that. All right? So we would pronounce this yo, y-o, day, daleth, sere, and then it would be at the end, just we would pronounce this patak. Yo dea is that the way that would be pronounced. All right, let's take another example that's given in the book. We've got a resh, shurik, and then the heth, and it's also has the patak underneath it. This would be pronounced R-U-A-K. Or A, how does he got that in the book? A-H. Ruach. All right, so what we're doing, and the reason this is not directly underneath the letter, just like this one, is because we're really putting two vowels together. Ru-ach. Ru-ach, like that. And so that's one of the unique things that happens with our guttural letters. Okay, learn what are the guttural letters. Once again, the guttural letters: aleph, ayin, hey, heth. Those are the four biggies. Those are the ones that you need to recognize are unique letters. They're weak letters, and because of that, they do need strengthening. We like to call them the wimp letters of the Hebrew language, and that's what they are. They need help because they're wimps, and so we have to strengthen them a little bit as we go through and we work on these things. All right? Now the book also wants to talk a little bit about the dagesh. Now we've already learned that the dagesh is a dot that's placed in the letter. All letters with the exception of these four letters and the letter resh can take the dagesh. All right? So 5 letters cannot take the dagesh. Aleph, ayin, hey, heth, and then we add resh. Resh is not as wimpy as these letters, but it's still kind of wimpy, and so it also cannot take a dagesh. Now, the book tells us there are 2 different types of dageshes. You have what's called the dagesh linne, and this is the weak dagesh. And this goes in our begad kafat. Remember, begad kafat. Begad kafat letters. You've learned those letters and you remember them. That can be inserted in those when it's at the beginning of the word. When these letters occur at the beginning of a word, they do take the dagesh linne. All right, and then second type of dagesh is what's called the dagesh forte, or strong. All right, the dagesh in this case is inserted into the letter to compensate for a missing letter or to indicate the doubling of a consonant. Now, Hebrew doesn't usually drop off letters. but on occasion that does happen. And so when you have a Dagesh forte, it is a thing that is strengthening it and doubling it. That's part of what's happening. All right, he gives you an example in the book of the word karas, or karat. All right, we take this word. It's pointed like this. This takes a Dagesh since it's one of our Begad Kafat letters. But this Tav also has a Dagesh in it. And so what that really means is that the word is spelled like this. With two Tavs at the end, and then it would be pointed accordingly. All right, as you see in the book there on page 35. So that would be pronounced ka, rat, ta. Ka, rat, ta. Like that. And that's what this doubling dot does. So you're not going to see this. This is, the Hebrews wanted to cut away as much as they could to make their writing as simple as possible. And so they said, well, let's just make this dot stand for the two letters that occur together. And so when I see this, I would pronounce it, since I see this doubling dot, ka, rat, ta. So I do it twice. And that's the Dagesh forte. The Dagesh forte, the strong, are what is called the doubling dot. Now the book points out, and we certainly want to emphasize, that you are expected to know and learn these rules, because it's going to be very, very difficult for you to go on without understanding that. But even if you don't have a complete grasp of it, as we begin to do some of this translating, I think that you'll get the hang of it and understand the way these things function. You might not be able to explain all the various rules that go along with these things, but you will be able to understand and see these Hebrew words and know how they are pronounced. All right, on page 35 we also have some study hints, and with these particular study hints, let's take a minute and look at those. First, it says, study carefully the different vowels, their names, and their equivalent English sounds. I'll make sure that as you work on that, you're able to do that. As stated in the notes of this lesson, in previous lessons as well, the transcriptions to the English do not always sound just like they ought to when you're trying to describe the way something sounds in English. It's better to hear it, and that of course is the advantage of this class, and also of the videotape that we were talking about a little bit earlier. You're able to hear a person pronounce these things, and that's how you're really going to get the true pronunciation of these Hebrew words, by listening to it on this tape. That's why you may want to rewind the tape and play it again and again, especially this lesson, because this is the lesson that we're going to focus on our pronunciation. All right, another study hint is that you need to make sure that that note 14, where we're talking about the composite Shava, get a good handle on the composite Shava. Know the peculiarities of the gutturals, the aleph, ayin, hey, heth. Those four letters are the gutturals. Understand the peculiarities of those, and you'll avoid a lot of errors in the future. And then also it's important that you understand the role of the Dagesh in Hebrew pronunciation. Remember that the Dagesh can be one that gives it a harder sound. That's the Dagesh Linne, or the weak Dagesh, or it can be one that serves as a doubling dot. And in that case, when you have that doubling dot, whatever letter the Dagesh occurs in means that you need to pronounce that letter twice. All right? Now, we're going to do some reading. And as we do this reading, you must be able to read correctly and fluently. And as I made mention earlier, it's important that you're able to hear these words as well as see them, and as long as you're able to do that, then that's going to enable you to remember these Hebrew words a little bit better. Most of the assignments include a rapid reading exercise, and work on those. where that you're able to take these verses and with some degree of quickness able to read through them. Experience shows that by using this method, you should be able to read Hebrew correctly by the end of a couple of lessons and fluently by the time we get to, say, exercise 8 or 9. Now, these exercises that we have in the book on pages 37 and following, read these aloud again and again. And if you're working with someone else, you have a teacher, you have some classmates, have them hear you, listen to you pronounce those things, and see if you're pronouncing them correctly. Remember that Hebrew writing is almost phonetic. Therefore, the shortest and the most efficient way to teach reading and writing is just the old-fashioned way, the so-called synthetic method of teaching reading by combining the letters with their vowels. We have a letter, we have a vowel. That's pronounced this way. We have a letter, we have a vowel. We just take it one part at a time, and that's the way we learn Hebrew. Now, most languages, they like to say, if you've studied German or Spanish or some languages such as that, they say it's easier to get used to hearing the language before you see the language. And obviously that's not the direction we're going with Hebrew. Experience has shown that in teaching biblical Hebrew to adults, it's most vital to introduce reading and writing simultaneously, and that, of course, is what we have done. Reading is one of the most effective ways of means of acquiring a knowledge of the language. So it's an indispensable aspect of teaching any language, and especially Hebrew. Therefore, carefully cultivate the art of reading from the very beginning of your studies in Hebrew. All right? The book also makes an interesting note, and that is according to Dr. Aaron Rosen of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, who's taught Hebrew to thousands of adult foreign students. You should try to improve your reading in the following ways. A, by correct pronunciation of every word, and B, by accentuated reading. Get those accents in there and correctly. Now, when pronouncing words, do not slur syllables or run words together. And the tape that you're watching should be able to help you in working on these. Now, the accent is indicated right here in the text. And when the accent is there, make sure you read it accordingly and that you put the emphasis right there on that particular accent. Most of the words in Hebrew are accented on the last syllable. So if you don't see any accent marks, then you know that it's accented on the last syllable. Now, what the textbook does is when a word is accented on the first or the second syllable, it has that little arrow-like thing, and you'll know that that's the accent that's supposed to get the umph, and that's where you place the stress. And if you put the stress on the wrong syllable, then you may change the entire meaning of the word. For example, the word Heresh with the accent on the last syllable means deaf, whereas the word Heresh with the accent on the first syllable means quiet. So Heresh, Herish. There's a difference there, and as a result of that, then you can see that it makes a difference in the way it's pronounced. All right, now let's begin working on the exercises. We'll read exercises A through G, and by working on these, you'll be able to get your pronunciation down. Now, let me make a suggestion on the best way to do this. I'm only going to go through these one time, but what I would suggest that you do is, after we finish numbers 1, 2, and 3, that you rewind the tape to this point. And when you rewind the tape to this point, then you pronounce it just before I pronounce it and see if you said it like I said it. And so the first time, have it where I'm just reading through and you listen while looking at the letters and the vowels. And then rewind the tape and go back to this point, and I'll read them through, you read them through again with taking advantage of the pause in between each letter, and you pronounce these after me. And then you may want to even go back a third time, and with that third time, pronounce those letters yourself, and then have me say it right after you say it, and see if it's pronounced correctly. So basically, if we were in an actual live class, what we would want to do is go through these lists 3 different times. The first time, you just listen to me pronounce them as you look. The second time, you pronounce it right after I pronounce it. And then the third time, then we have you saying it before I say it, and that way we see if you're reading this and whether you're able to understand the letters and pronounce it the same. And if it's not the same, then obviously there is a problem there and you're misreading one of the letters. Okay, let's begin then with exercise A and the pronunciation of these letters. All right, number 1, of course, going from right to left. Da, va, or excuse me, that has a dog-ish in it, that'd be ba. Li, ma, ni, ta, ga, di, te. All right, next line. Pe, le, ki, she, si, sa, lo, you, sa, lu. Number 2. Ni, vu, no, ta, re, fu. That'd be pu, excuse me. Then this would be fa. Me, may. All right, next line. Re, a, ni, chi, vu, cha, ko, o, z. Number 3. Pu, fe, sa, na, te, ku, ba, ve, tu. Next line. A, ho, ga, sha, de, to, si, a. Now, as you can see, these are all open syllables. All right, now number 2 will be closed syllables. Now remember, an open syllable is one that ends in a vowel. A closed syllable is one that ends in a consonant. All right, number 4, reading, of course, from right to left. Kaf, etz, pen, im, off, rots, die, gal, al, el. All right, next line. Shear, kol, ear, sus, dude, ish, tov, or. All right, notice that these are all one syllable and it ends in a vowel, it ends in a consonant, therefore is closed. All right, let's go on to C, words beginning or words consisting of 2 syllables, open and closed. All right, number 5. Yashav. All right, ya, that's open. Shav, that's closed. Lamad. Lakach. Yada. Ahmad. Next line. Now notice that you got the little arrow above the mem. Therefore, that's where the accent should go. So instead of melek, this will be melek. Melek. Next one. Geshem. Erev. Feirach. Semach. Next line. Shalom. Yaled. Yeled. Excuse me. See the accent above the yod. Yeled. Baruch. Adon. Malone. All right, when you look at these, and of course we've gone through the first three, we have an example of open syllables that end in a vowel, closed syllables that end in a consonant, and then words consisting of two syllables, both open and closed. Now, as we mentioned earlier, usually the open syllable is going to have a long vowel. The closed syllable is one that's going to have a short vowel. And so, oftentimes, at the end of a Hebrew word, you're going to have a short vowel. The beginning of a Hebrew word, you're going to have a long vowel. Okay, let's go on then to letter D. Words with the last syllable having a sound of IE, as in the word tie. This is number 6, as you can see on the screen. Matai, Adonai, Enai, Dai, Shirai, Chai. Next line. This first one. Chai, Dodai, Dodotai, Shai, Ulai. So when you have the patak yod, then you understand it has an IE sound like in the word tie. All right, next one. Set of words containing letters that look alike but are pronounced differently. And we'll begin with bet and kaf, number 7. Bait, habayit, ben, kavod, kad. Next line. Kalev, ha-kalev, ken, bekor, bod. All right, number 8 with the gimel and the noon. Gar, gam, gagi, gani, excuse me, gog, uga, ner. Next line. Nes, ani, natan. All right, notice that even I got tripped up there trying to distinguish between those two letters, the noon and gimel. Got to be careful and looking at the text very carefully. All right, number 9. Between the vet and the kaf. Vet and the kaf. All right. Tov, lev, areva, tova, over. All right, next line. Halka, kaka, beraka, mika, moker. All right, number 10. Try to distinguish between the dalet and the resh. Dode, dove, David, Derek, Davar. Next line. Rosh, Rove, Ashir, Rekev, Barak, or Barak, excuse me, Barak. You see the accent there, right there on the base? All right, but when you look at these and you try to distinguish between the various letters, once again, I want to reiterate the importance of being able to distinguish between these various letters, knowing that they are very similar, and as I mentioned, the Hebrew printed text is actually a lot better in being able to distinguish between some of these letters that are a little bit confusing. All right, let us proceed then on to page 38 on Lesson 5, number 11, and try to distinguish between the reading of the letter He and Heth. All right, number 11, Hem, Hayah, Hayom, Ha'av, Ahava. Next line. Ach, Chaya, Chayim, maybe Chayim, Hakom, Achim. Number 12. Trying to distinguish between the Vav and the Zayin. David, Hivaled, Vav, Vehasus, Valed, Zanav, Zayit, Hazeh, Vezot, Zuz. Number 13, we'll distinguish between the Tet, the Mem. Terem, Et, Betach, Leat, Mitah, Bama, Melach, Melech, Mate, Mayim. All right, number 14, distinguishing between the Samic and the final Mem, which can be confusing sometimes. Sod, Sus, Nisa, Mas, Kisei. Next line. Yom, Mayim, Kum, Misim, Samim. Number 15, distinguishing between the Sin and the Shin. Sason, Sameach, Sam, Nasa, Yisrael. Next line. Shisha, Shisha, Shelosha, Sham, Shorish, Shaul. All right, those are once again some further examples of some of the letters that we work on and have a little bit of difficulty pronouncing. And it's interesting when we look at these various letters that, especially with the sheen, understanding the difference between the dot on the two arms and then the samic and the final S. It does require a little bit of extra work on our part in distinguishing between the pronunciation of those two things. All right, let's go on and look then at number 16, distinguishing between the ayin and the samic. All right, reading from right to left. Am, Asa, Yada, Yavad, Etzim. Next line. Som, Sava, Selah, Asa, Sa'ir. All right, now we have a set of words containing letters that have different forms but have the same pronunciation, such as the vet and the vav. Number 17, Av, Aviv, Lev, Giver, Aviv, Kav, Vav, Gave, Kaveh, Tikveh. All right, next one, number 18, between the aleph and the ayin. Once again, with the aleph and the ayin, it's all we're basically doing is pronouncing the vowel underneath that. Ach, Im, Amar, Matzah, a mode, Next line. Got Am, then Im, Ahmad, Shama, Aasa. Excuse me, Aase. Aase. And then number 19, the Heth and the Kaf. Sachak, Shalach, Chayim, Ach, Kechu. Next line. Zachar, Malach, Chakamim, Chach, Leku. All right, we'll end this particular lesson right there, and in the next one we'll continue with this pronunciation. But you want to stop at this point and go through reading these various words, rewinding the tape as necessary, and practicing on your pronunciation so that you'll be able to see these letters and pronounce them correctly. In the next lesson then, we'll proceed with this pronunciation and also go into lesson number 6.